Welcome to the Big Picture Retirement Show, where you'll learn what it really takes to have a successful retirement. With over 20 years of experience, your host, Reid Abedeen of Safeguard Investment Advisory Group, has seen it all and is here to help you achieve your retirement dreams. This is the Big Picture Retirement Show.
Welcome into the Big Picture Retirement Show with Reid Abedeen. I'm Mark Elliott, Reid, the managing partner at Safeguard Investment Advisory Group. Been in the business now for over 2.5 decades. Reid, Rick, Eddie, the team at Safeguard are here to help you figure out where you are on that road to retirement. Are you taking too much risk, not enough risk? Where's your paycheck going to come from when you're no longer getting one because you're retired? There's a lot of question marks when it comes to retirement. We always encourage you, if you have any questions, if you would like to have an actual 15, 20-minute phone call with Reid himself, all you have to do is call and set it up. 951-596-5566. And you can text the word call to that number as well. There's no cost to you whatsoever. I don't know why you wouldn't take advantage of it. But a 15-minute strategy call with Reid himself, 951-596-5566. And again, you can just text the word call to that number. And then the team and you get together and you set up a time to make this happen. Might be the most important phone call you make. There you go, 951-596-5566. Reid, I said you've been doing this for over 2.5 decades. And you're sitting down with people today at Safeguard where you're trying to help people figure out where they are on that road to retirement. What I wonder, and I think you know the facts and figures way better than I do, but I think it's about 25% of people actually sit down with a retirement planning team. Most are in the, like the HGTV, the do-it-yourself world, right?
Yeah.
And so what leads people, do you think, your clients, great group of clients at Safeguard Investment Advisory Group, what leads them to actually make that call and that first step?
So have I really been doing this over 2 decades? What time?
2.5.
I cannot believe it. So I digress. But here's why people typically will come and see me. They feel like they might be missing something. They feel inundated with information. I actually spoke to someone just yesterday, and they are about to retire, and they're going through so much information, and they're like, how do I know what applies to me and what doesn't? And so that's another reason why. And then there is one that I'm seeing more and more lately, especially this year, Mark, and that is the advisor didn't really communicate or do anything early on this year when things were what we'll call having its turmoil.
Bumpy. Things were bumpy.
Things were very bumpy. And think about it. If you are concerned and you're seeking advice and the person you are getting advice from is not really communicating or doing anything or has advised or guided, this creates oh my gosh, what could I be missing? Where's my blind spot moving forward? And so I think that's what really is the key of all of these is there a blind spot? When you drive, there's that blind spot on the right side. You have a little bit of a blind spot. That's why they tell you, hey, turn your head to make sure. They're not really seeing that blind spot. They don't know where it is, and they want to make sure that it's not going to impact their lives moving forward. Everyone understands markets can go up and down. I mean, we don't need to be a rocket scientist to figure that one out. It is, how will it impact my life if these things continue?
And I think that's the biggest key is we don't really know, because everything that we talk about on this show every week on this program, about retirement, the income, investment, taxes, healthcare, legacy planning, all of that, and Social Security, Medicare decisions, we don't really know what's the best for us. And so certainly on the show, we talk pretty general, right? I mean, because you can't give somebody the exact answer because you don't know their situation. And you never walk anybody through your process at Safeguard Investment Advisory Group, the big picture blueprint, those areas we just talked about. You don't ever make the plan until you know more about them and what they want and what they need. And I mean, so there's so much digging you have to do to put that whole plan together. And I think, like the old brokers back in the day, and they probably still do, because their job is to grow your money. That's their number one goal. Hey, the markets are getting bumpy. Don't worry about it. It'll come back, right? Don't do anything at this point. That's a whole different feeling when we get to retirement.
Absolutely. So I guess I don't have to spend all this time understanding you, Mark, understanding what you want, understanding your vision. And imagine if you came to my office and you and I just sit down and you said, "Hey, Reid, I'm about to retire. Can you help me and guide me?" And I say, "Okay, Mark, let me just show you how my account works." Whose interest would I really be looking out for? Because I don't know what yours is.
Right.
That is what I call a cookie cutter approach, because I don't know your vision, but I just want to give you promote some investment vehicle. When you were describing the old style brokers, and they're still out there that are designed to grow your money, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, I don't think that's a bad thing. You should have your money grow. It's just that it should be positioned around your vision as well as multiple factors to make sure it grows efficiently. And so I got to tell you, Mark, the thing that, my daughter Lena, she's going to be going in for her doctorate at Loma Linda. I'm very proud of her. And, even when all three of my kids, when they were kids going to school, I'd always tell them, look, be prepared. We all tell our kids to do the same thing. Be prepared. Make sure you're prepared for the test. You never know what's going to show up on there, right? All of this stuff. And yet, people will spend more time shopping for a refrigerator, investigating how much they can save, whether they should go to Best Buy or, Fry's or all these places, than actually seeing how their investments are aligned together. And that's why it's worth giving me a call, spending a 15-minute strategy call to make sure these things are done right.
And again, that number to do just that, a 15-minute strategy call with Reid himself, it's 951-596-5566. You can just text the word call, 951-596-5566. It's a great opportunity, I think, to dig a little deeper, because we certainly can't give you exact, like, hey, should I move money from my 401k or my IRA to the Roth world? Maybe. Maybe not, right? Everybody's situation is unique, and that's why this call is so important. And then from there, Reid, I think it's fair to say from there you decide, both of you, whether should we come in and have a more in-depth meeting about where you are on that road to retirement? How can we help? But it's got to be a two-way street. This is not a sales business you're in as a financial advisor. This is a relationship business.
Correct. So I've always told my team that's been there for a very long time, we are not a sales organization. We're not going to give a sales 101 meeting and show you what you should buy or anything. We are a financial planning firm. And so one of the things that I will make sure of is that anything we're doing for any families we serve is customized for them and their viewpoint, not mine.
Which is pretty important in today's world. It is about whomever you're sitting down with, how can you help them? So again, if you'd like to have that 50-minute strategy call with Reid, it's 951-596-5566. And when you see the market swings, it can feel overwhelming at times, especially the closer you're getting to retirement, or the scary headlines that we see all the time on TV and in the newspapers and all of that kind of stuff. I think that's the challenge, is we get a little bit nervous because we don't really know what's going on. We don't know exactly the story. So how do you help and your team at Safeguard help us retirees try to handle all the kind of questionable things or the unknown things that are going on?
Yeah, we're inundated with information. I mean, it's just you're bombarded. Just Google financial planning. There'll be hundreds of millions of pages. So how do you do that? So in the old days, people would say, hey, I'm retired. I go to a financial advisor or CPA or lawyer and say, here's my situation. And the person would advise them. Today, it's a little bit different. They'll come in and they'll bring all these documents and articles and things like this because they're inundated with this, and which applies to me. And so the way we answer that question, which is applicable, is we understand your viewpoint. We understand your vision. We understand what's most important to you, how you want to see things go. We stress test the portfolio to make sure that there's no knee-jerk reactions when things do go south, because the one thing we can guarantee is markets are not going to cooperate in certain years. I mean, 2022 was not that long ago. The stock market dropped around 20%. Well, imagine if I just retired that year. What am I thinking? Oh, did I make the right decision? Should I go back to work?
Hey, could
You
you
need
take a minute before we wrap this up to explain what is a stress test?
Yeah, absolutely. So a stress testing the portfolio is actually doing a risk score with a, let's say, person or a couple, and we actually get to understand how they would interpret when markets move up or down, how they would react to it. And then we educate them on how theirs is structured, and we see if there's some discrepancies. And then we also, Mark, look at overlap because most people have, like, let's just say 5 or 6 ETFs. Now, those funds or mutual funds or ETFs, they're not communicating with each other. So you could have Apple in one, Apple in the other, and one could be selling Apple. So there's costs involved in all of these things. So our question to everyone is, how many times do you need to buy Apple to take advantage of it? Once. But you're paying for all of this. So it's stress testing all of these areas to make sure it's working effectively for the person.
And so this is your opportunity to talk with Reid. If you'd like to come in and have a visit with the team, you can text visit as well, 951-596-5566. It's a great opportunity for you, I think, to get some questions answered, some concerns that you may have. Reid and the team at Safeguard Investment Advisor Group are here to listen to you first, listen to you, not try to sell you anything. They're here to listen. 951-596-5566. Just getting started on the Big Picture Retirement Show with Reid Abedeen of Safeguard Investment Advisor Group. Back with more right after this.
You're listening to the Big Picture Retirement Show with Reid Abedeen. For information about Reid and the Safeguard team, go to safeguardinvestment.com. While you're there, you can also download educational retirement guides and sign up for upcoming seminars at safeguardinvestment.com. Now, back to the podcast.
Welcome back to the Big Picture Retirement Show with Reid Abedeen. Reid is the managing partner at Safeguard Investment Advisory Group. The company started around 2002, kind of went in really more the retirement planning world in 2008. And think about 2008, what was going on in '08? It was the Great Recession. So interesting time to move into that world. Because why? Because what was happening? Oh, I lost 40 or 50% of my money. I'm never going to be able to retire. Well, maybe we can help you figure out a way to retire. So that's the idea at Safeguard is how in the world can we help you be able to retire if you don't have 10 or 15 million bucks? Because California is not the cheapest place to retire in. So you've got to have a strategy. You've got to have a plan. If you'd like to talk with Reid about what is your plan, what are your hopes and dreams for retirement, 951-596-5566, 951-596-5566. I'm Mark Elliott. Glad you're with us today. You know, when you walk people through the big picture blueprint, and really it's 5 pillars, I suppose: income, investment, taxes, healthcare, legacy planning. And then you go, well, wait, retirement, Social Security, Medicare. Well, Social Security is in the income part, Medicare is in the healthcare part. One of the cool things that I think you do, because I say it always starts with a conversation. You're not trying to sell anybody anything, really. What do they need to make their retirement better? That would be the crux of your job, it seems to me.
That is the crux. And every advisor in the country, that is the responsibility of the advisor to communicate with the families they serve and make sure that that is being done. Otherwise, it becomes cookie cutter, which follows the line of transactional and one size fits all.
So when you think about retirees, as you were talking about, what they really want to know is how this affects them, right? And their future, all of this, whether you're talking about the markets, you're talking about income, you're talking about healthcare, legacy plan, it doesn't really matter. Social Security decisions, Medicare decisions, there's a lot on our plate, but we don't really care how it affects our neighbor as much as we really want to know how it affects us. And that's where the conversation comes from, I would think.
It is, Mark. It's really how it impacts us. So I'll give you a perfect example. You have 2 households, one who is just retired, the other is working. They both are invested very similarly. Markets go down. One is taking advantage of it. The other is
Nervous.
thinking, oh my gosh, what did I do? Did I make a mistake? Did my advisor give me the right advice? Now they're questioning where they're at because it can impact their lives. That's a perfect example of how this could impact that person. So you have 2 people experiencing the same exact market with different lenses. And this is what I want to avoid for every person who is approaching retirement. This is what I'm trying to protect from making irrational or knee jerk reactions because they're unaware of how their plan is structured. And the only way that plans can be structured is if the person that is advising them understands multiple areas. So it's not just so cut and dry. It does involve having a conversation. In my opinion, it's well worth it because that's what creates lasting legacy plan income to enjoy your retirement. Otherwise, why retire?
One of the things that Reid and the team at Safeguard Investment Advisor Group have done for you that you don't even realize it yet, but if you would like the retirement kit that they have put together, there's a retirement checklist. There's stuff about what if we have a recession? How does that affect us? What about Social Security decisions? How do we do that? There's just a lot of information in this. If you're thinking about retirement, what are some of the areas I really need to be focusing on? If you would like that retirement kit from the team at Safeguard, they'll get it right out to you. Just text the word KIT, K-I-T. Just text KIT to 951-596-5566. And then when you get all of that information and you start kind of perusing through it, you're going to have more questions would be the way I would look at it. And so if that's the case, then you call and say, hey, I need to talk with Reid. I got some questions on this retirement kit I got. 951-596-5566. It's a great opportunity for you because, Reid, at the end of the day, you don't tell people, hey, you can do this, you can't do that. Here's what we would suggest in that situation. But at the end of the day, it's their retirement, it's their lives, right?
It absolutely is. The families that we have served, they've worked their entire lives for this time, meaning they've put away, they didn't blow it all, they didn't, overspend. They made sure they put money aside so that they can enjoy it when they stop working. And that's why we design it. But it's not for me to say what they should do. I spoke to a couple a few weeks ago, and they told me that when they withdrew money from their account to take a trip or something, that the advisor said, well, I'm not okay, I guess. And to me, if my bank were ever to say anything like that to me, if I wanted to withdraw money, they wouldn't be my bank because it is my money. And how can the bank make a comment if I want to do something with it? So it is absolutely their money. It is absolutely their desire. What people come to me for is how do I best structure it to do this? Now that's a different equation, right? And that's what we kind of design for them. It requires some discussion. It requires some understanding on both sides. But then any plan that's created, which I've said for many, many years, it needs to be made sure that it's updated, it's discussed, it's reviewed, it's looked at, because there is no set it and forget it.
So did you get this strategy? Well, you have like 4 sisters. Is that right?
I do.
So you became the mediator and smooth things over.
Well, not really.
No, not really.
It was 4 sisters, very strong. Mother who's a doctor, and then there was me. So I learned a lot from them, quite frankly, my sisters, and all of them quite smart. And so I remember playing, they never used to play Monopoly with me, Mark.
Are they older, all 4?
3 older, 1 younger.
Okay. Why wouldn't they play Monopoly? Did you?
Because I'd beat them. I would do my planning ahead of time. So as they landed on my hotels, they'd eventually go broke. So there is a perfect example of why you should do planning ahead of time. So think about Monopoly as you're going around the board. You're buying real estate at strategic times, and then you'll build the houses and then the hotel, so that when someone lands, you're going to get paid, right? If you didn't do all these things, you're eventually going to give it all up somewhere. And that's how I look at this from not Monopoly, of course, but making sure the planning aspect of it is done.
Which is really what this show is about, is really, do you have a plan for your retirement? Do you know where your income is going to come from? Are you taking too much risk, not enough risk? What about taxes? I think taxes is one of the most overlooked things when it comes to retirement planning. We don't think about that. Well, Reid, I don't have any control over my taxes. Then you think of healthcare. We don't really. I think that's one of the two big unknowns. Would you buy this? The two big unknowns when it comes to retirement, when you're putting that big picture blueprint together for your client or clients, would be longevity and healthcare.
100%, Mark. The longevity part of it is really important to make sure that you have something. So let's just say you said, well, you know what, Reid, I'm not going to live to past 80. So I'm healthy now. So why would I do something to plan for that? Well, because we don't know when and if it were to occur. Will it cost you to not have it at least discussed? Yes, because if you don't have this plan structured, it will negate all the planning you did before. Second thing, in my opinion, your near future taxes are going to be pretty good. But I do believe that at some stage of the game, they're going to create more stealth taxes like IRMA, taxes on Social Security, cut benefits here or there to cover these tax cuts. So that's going to happen. There's no question about it. So again, structuring your Roth conversions, I'm not saying go out there and do conversions right now, making sure it's done correctly will protect your future. That's like, hey, we just talked Monopoly, buying a hotel on a property that will pay you down the road. Doing your Roth conversion is going to be essential for you for future. I've seen some disasters with advisors who are not experienced in this doing them, and they've created taxes and penalties for the client, unaware of how they work. Make sure that the advisor understands all of these areas and how they're supposed to be coordinated around your vision.
You know, when you think about it, you bring up the national debt. We're getting ready to click over to $37 trillion in debt as a nation. In 1990, that debt was $3 trillion.
Yep.
$3 trillion to $37 trillion in 35 years.
So a good friend of mine sent me on my birthday a nostalgic gift. It was a Wall Street Journal from 1972, September 26th. And the headline was national debt hit $548 million. And people were panicking, just outrageous. And so you could see what's happened to the spending over the years. So ladies and gentlemen, I want you to think of that debt as a credit card. And the person who is spending more on this credit card, they're bringing in a certain amount of money, but they're just spending way beyond it. And I tell this person, I say, hey, listen, you have a debt issue. You need to either go out and work more, get more money, or cut your spending. And this person says, you know what, I'm not willing to do that. I'm just going to continue to spend. I'm not changing anything. I'm not going to change my lifestyle. I'm not going to work more hours. I'm going to continue to spend more. At what point is this going to collapse? And by the way, no one knows. That's why you should do the planning. That's why you should do your Roth conversions. That's why you should sit down with someone and make sure your total plan is looked at.
And every week on this program, you have that opportunity to actually have a conversation with Reid himself. All you have to do is text the word call to 951-596-5566. The retirement world is pretty complicated. There's a lot of areas that are moving around and changing. Laws change, legislation changes, your health changes. I mean, we get older. That's the idea, right? That's the hope. But how do we know that we're going to be okay? That's really the biggest question. Just text the word call to 951-596-5566 and have that conversation with Reid. It doesn't mean you're going to be a client of Safeguard, because it's got to be a good fit for you and it's got to be a good fit for Reid and the team, but it is about you. You're certainly going to walk away with more clarity in your retirement picture. 951-596-5566. More of those hidden obstacles we got to kind of wheel our way through, hopefully without too many skirmishes along the way. We've got more with Reid right after this, right here on the Big Picture Retirement Show.
You're listening to the Big Picture Retirement Show with Reid Abedeen. For information about Reid and the Safeguard team, go to safeguardinvestment.com. While you're there, you can also download educational retirement guides and sign up for upcoming seminars at safeguardinvestment.com. Now, back to the podcast.
Glad you're with us today for the Big Picture Retirement Show with Reid Abedeen, the managing partner at Safeguard Investment Advisory Group. Safeguard is here really to kind of help you figure out where you are on the road to retirement, right? Can I retire? Well, when? Do I have enough? Are we going to be okay if we retire? Will our money last as long as we need it? Will my loved ones be okay if something happens to me? There's a lot of questions and concerns that people have heading into retirement. So we certainly hope you have a great retirement, because that's not the end of your life. It's just a new phase. Should be, hopefully it's a great phase. But you better have a plan and a strategy in place. Reid and the team are here to help you do that if they can. Maybe they can help. Maybe you don't need them. Maybe you've already won the game. You could retire anytime you want. That would be great to know. Give them a call. Have a conversation. Text the word visit if you just want to come in and sit down and say, hey, I'd love to have an hour of your time, Reid. I want to talk to you about all of this. Let's figure it out. 951-596-5566, 951-596-5566. I'm Mark Elliott. We're talking about kind of those, even if you have money that you really feel like you're going to be good when it comes to retirement, there are some things that, boy, this could pop up and cause me an issue here or there. How do we know that our lifetime income is going to last us our lifetime, right? That's one of the biggest fears retirees have today, is the fear of outliving their money. So really kind of starts with income, but it's also tied together with the investments, right? We're taking too much risk, not enough risk. Taxes are a huge part of that. Then you get into healthcare and you get into legacy planning. There's a lot of things on our plate. And I wanted to go to the healthcare side because, you know, your mom was a doctor, so you know everything about healthcare, right?
Oh, me? Yeah, absolutely. No.
But you think about healthcare, and Warren Buffett said this when he made his big announcement that he's going to step down after he's on 95. I guess he thought it was time. But he said that the gross domestic product of healthcare for U.S. back when he started Berkshire Hathaway in the 60s was 5% of our GDP. Today, he said it's 18 to 20%. He said the problem is our healthcare is not 3 times better. But healthcare is allowing people to live longer than they certainly would have 20 or 30 years ago, I would think. So healthcare, how does that factor into this big picture blueprint?
It's humongous, Mark. So as Warren Buffett was talking about, hasn't gotten really better, but we've monetized it. Obviously, there's the pharmaceutical industry, there's the health insurance, and then there's the hospital and doctor. So all three are somehow, the insurance company is billed by the pharmaceutical, and the hospitals, they pass it to us. And so it creates this. The more unhealthy issues occur, the higher the premiums. And so this is the domino effect. So if someone were to retire today and they just jump on Medicare, well, we know those costs are going to go up. Over time, they're going to increase. And so we never know when a health scare could occur. So my mother, God rest her soul, but she ended up with pancreatic cancer. So medical doctor, she used to go to the gym 4 or 5 days a week. And I'll never forget this. They asked her for her photo to put on the poster, because she used to go to all the aerobic classes and everything else. I picked her up May 24th from the airport. She was gone on vacation for 5 weeks. She died September 2nd. So we never know when these things happen. But when it did, when she was on hospice and she needed care, there were certain things that she had available to her that was already planned. And so I know we joke about me knowing anything about healthcare. What I did early on was design stuff for her that in the event something happened, that she had it covered. And this is where the retiree needs to understand that this is potentially could happen to them. Of course, we don't want it to. Of course, we like to think it's never going to happen. So we always have to have some type of protection. So I know this, and I know most people do this. When they get in their car and they turn on the key, they put their seatbelts on. Now, we don't go driving to work and assume we're going to have an accident, but that seatbelt is on just in case. I have homeowners insurance. What are the odds that I go away on vacation and when I get back, my house is completely floored? Very low, but I have homeowners insurance just in case. So for someone who retires, they need to have that just in case. Now, it doesn't mean you need to go buy a long-term care insurance, because I don't think those are good fits. But there are some options for you to protect you just in case. And that's why we offer you this 15-minute strategy call. It's a discussion to understand how you're structured, what you need to consider as far as how to complete your planning. So it's not just one dimensional.
And if you'd like to take advantage of that 15-minute strategy call, it's not with somebody from Safeguard. It's with Reid. Reid will be the one you actually talk to about your situation, your questions, your concerns. Again, it's 951-596-5566. You can text the word call to that number. Team will get back to you on Monday, and they'll figure out a time to have that conversation. 951-596-5566. It's one of those things that I think healthcare is so unpredictable. We've all heard of the jogger that's in the greatest shape ever, like your mom, right? And then something happens, you're like, I didn't see that coming. That's crazy. We've seen the person that maybe drank too much, smoked too much, ate terrible. Next thing you know, they're 90. You're like, how did that work? That doesn't make any sense at all.
I'm going to that strategy starting tomorrow, Mark.
Yeah, exactly. And it's one of the things, my dad, I'm 65. My dad was a great athlete. He was a longtime college coach. But he was a fast pitch softball catcher after his playing days. They didn't wear all the protection that they do today, and he'd get foul balls off his body, and they think that a blood clot came off one of those big bruises and nicked his lungs, and he ended up passing away at the age of 72. My mom is 88 and now in assisted living, and things aren't great for her, but her mind's still good. Her body failing a little bit, certainly, but for me, I could say, well, Reid, there's no reason for you ever to plan for me to get past 72. That's when my dad passed away. But then you say, well, wait a minute, your mom's 88. Maybe that's what you got in you. You don't know. And I think, where you have somebody like your mom going through pancreatic cancer, which is like the worst you could get. I mean, I have a buddy that's my age. He's going to go in for double bypass surgery coming up in the next couple weeks. We just don't know. How do you plan for that? Because that's part of it. Like, you don't know how long we're going to be here, but you don't know if we're going to have healthcare costs or challenges either.
So it's not overly complex, honestly, when it comes to that part of it. It requires a discussion with the household couple that I'm dealing with. So I'm just going to put you on my side of the fence just for a moment. When somebody comes in and sits down with me, I first get an understanding of where they're at, kind of what they've done, how they envision things. Then I ask some certain questions about kind of income, expenses, kind of all of this stuff. And then I go through additional points of discussion to understand what's most important. Now, it does not mean that they shouldn't self-insure, because self-insuring, there's a lot of people that are able to do it this way, but there's a right way and a wrong way, just in case. The other option for the consumer is that they can actually do what we call a Liberty plan that is available where the money is liquid, but it gives you a hedge against self-insuring. I'm not promoting it in any way, shape, or form, but it does give you that just in case that you or a loved one it becomes sick, spouse, that you've got coverage there also. And so these are the areas that I look at to create protection for the investment. Because if I'm self-insuring, Mark, and I become sick, Murphy's Law says basically when I need money, where are the markets going to be?
Down.
It's always the case. And so if I'm sick and I need care, I need to cover those costs. So where am I going to get the money from? Well, I'm going to have to sell maybe some investments, not at the best time. Could that create additional taxes? Yeah. I've seen this happen over and over again where someone will sell their positions, bad time, then pay for their care. Then they have to report the money on their taxes. So they have to sell more positions to cover the tax. So this domino effect that can be created, it sends their retirement trajectory down the tubes. That's why it is essential that all of these areas are looked at. When we discuss healthcare, we also look at the taxation, how it impacts you. We look at the income, how it's structured. We look at how longevity can impact it, risk can impact it. All of these areas have to be factored in when designing a plan. Otherwise, you will have something of what I call a cookie cutter approach, and that is one size fits all.
Couple minutes left. So final question on this. And I think it's one, I mean, you've done this for, over 25 years. And I think, sadly, you've had some clients pass away. And when you think about losing a spouse, I think that's probably one of the more emotional times. I mean, losing a child might be even worse. I don't know, but I haven't done either, I guess, at this point. But you think about it, you lose a spouse, now you're going to lose one of the two Social Securities. You lose the lower. Maybe you lose some or all of a pension. The government says, man, that was so great. You were married for 50 years. We're going to let you file your taxes joint that year of the spouse passing. But next year, you got to file as a single person. Now you get hit with a huge tax increase. And the bills don't drop in half, do they?
No. I've heard this before. And obviously, someone will say to me, well, I don't have to feed my husband anymore. So that will save me money. And obviously, they're joking there. But our property tax bill doesn't cut in half. Our electric bill doesn't cut in half. So these expenses are going to continue to go up over time. And the other part of this, which happened to my mother when my father passed away in '07, was that her tax bill went up because she lost one of the deductions. In those days, it was a deduction and an exemption that was cut in half. And I'm not joking when I say this, but she blamed me for this because she thought that I set it up for her to pay more in taxes. And I remember she sat me down and said, explain to me this math. I make less money and I pay more taxes. I thought the more money I made, the more tax I pay. And if I could reverse time and share with you how that
True to a degree, Mom.
Huh?
You said true to a degree, Mom, but not in this case.
Not in this IRS code. It's so shocking when the loved one is passed and then the surviving spouse has to pay more in taxes. So you have to make sure that the advisor is looking at all of these areas. If you hire a fiduciary that is looking at all these aspects, they're going to protect and guide you through these things. That's most important.
Yeah, and it's an opportunity for you. I think all of this. We don't want to think about losing a spouse or anything like that. But we know the markets are going to go down. Healthcare is a big issue. It's a big price. There's so many things that are really outside of our control. The planning part is not outside of your control. They're going to plan for some of the crazy things that could happen, but they're not going to know everything that happens in your life, right? We don't really know either. The idea is getting a plan, giving yourself some clarity where you are and how to move forward with confidence. That's kind of the best thing that can happen for you. If you'd like to have that 15-minute strategy call with Reid, again, it's 951-596-5566. Again, no cost for this whatsoever. Just text the word call or just call 951-596-5566. Back with our final segment of today's Big Picture Retirement Show with Reid Abedeen of Safeguard Investment Advisory Group right after this.
You're listening to the Big Picture Retirement Show with Reid Abedeen. For information about Reid and the Safeguard team, go to safeguardinvestment.com. While you're there, you can also download educational retirement guides and sign up for upcoming seminars at safeguardinvestment.com. Now, back to the podcast.
Welcome back to the Big Picture Retirement Show with Reid Abedeen. I'm Mark Elliott, Reid, the managing partner at Safeguard Investment Advisory Group. Always encourage you to go to the website. A lot of great information there. Safeguardinvestment.com. 6 offices in California. You can find out where they are just by going to the website, safeguardinvestment.com. You can read about Reid. You can read about Rick Rivera, Eddie Soto, the team at Safeguard, safeguardinvestment.com. I'm Mark Elliott. Glad you're with us. Again, if you'd like to chat with Reid or you just would like the retirement kit, got a lot of great information, the checklist, retirement checklist. The sad thing is, Reid, I think there's like 34, 35 things on that retirement checklist. I can only check like 5 right now. So I guess I'm not retiring at 65. 951-596-5566 and just text the word KIT, and the team at Safeguard will get that out to you. Then you might have questions. You want to call and talk with Reid. You can do that as well, 951-596-5566. All right, we're going to start with just a couple general retirement questions. Then we're going to ask Reid some kind of fun questions. Like, what's on your bucket list? What kind of things, what do you like to do? What are your favorite food? Whatever. We're going to kind of get to know Reid a little bit better in the final part of this segment. So first, I'm going to start with a couple questions. And I don't know how many of your clients at Safeguard have pensions, but I know you have some. It's not like you would have if you had started this practice in 1980, right?
Sure.
It's a different situation, but there are still pensions out there. So here's the question. What could be the impact on my pension if I decide to retire early?
So if you retire early, you would get potentially less income. It could impact your future needs because You'd have to factor in what your cost of living adjustment are, because by the way, some pensions don't even have them. So I've had clients who retire from Kaiser or Edison, and so they'll have a choice, or AT&T, they'll have a choice of collecting their pension now early. And so we'd factor in a number, and then we'd consider what their income and expenses are before we make this decision. So one of the most common questions I get, Mark, is this going to be enough for me to retire? And I'll say, well, that's a good question. Let's delve a little bit deeper into this, and then I'll be able to give you the answer.
One of the things that I also want to bring up about the pensions, because this was a thing, boy, when was it? After the Great Recession really became more prominent, was the lump sum payout of the pension. People wanted to get their employees off their payroll. Don't want the pension just hanging over us. We want to get rid of that. And I would think for a lot of people, it makes sense to take the lump sum pension, but for others, it wouldn't. The pension's set up so great. Maybe there's increasing income with that pension and it's a 7% guaranteed increase all the time or something. How do you look at that lump sum? Because there's no cookie cutter here either, I would guess.
Yeah, there's no cookie cutter. So there's a pro and con to both of these. So I'll just kind of cover them with you real quick so you understand. So let's just say someone comes to me and says, hey, Reid, I've got this lump sum or pension. What's the best one? So I always cover both angles with them. So the advantage to taking a lump sum is that you have control of the money. You can invest it any way you want. You want to withdraw more, you can. The challenge is if you invest it incorrectly, you could run out of money. So there's the advantage, control. You can invest it any way you want. The disadvantage is you could run out. Now, the other side is you could take a pension. The income will last your entire life. You could live to 130 years of age. They're going to pay you no matter what. The disadvantage is you don't have access to more if you need it. Very little flexibility. And if you die, the money could be gone. So the kids get nothing, whereas the lump sum, whatever's left, goes to the kids. So there's these advantages and disadvantages to both. Now, which is right for you? I will tell you right now, the only way you can get to that conclusion is which is right for you is to sit down and understand all of the areas to determine what's the right fit. Because I've had clients who have come into my office and I've told them you should take the pension. Based on your situation, the pension is a better fit. And I've had some who I said, look, you should take, because some companies will offer you a partial pension and a partial lump sum. So depending on the employer and the plan determines that. That's why it's important you see an advisor who has the experience in this arena, not just an investment.
Yeah, absolutely. So it really comes down to, as you can tell from listening to Reid, it depends on you. What makes the most sense for you in your situation? If you have a pension, you're maybe thinking about retiring and you're like, boy, I do have a lump sum option. I wonder if that one makes sense. It might, but it might not. That's the opportunity. And that's where Reid doesn't come into any of this with a preconceived notion. He's got to talk with you, help you figure out where you are, and then he can help you make decisions. He's not going to tell you have to do this or do that. Here's what I would suggest. I think this one, and here's why. Right? This is a great opportunity to chat with Reid. 951-596-5566, 951-596-5566. And again, you can just text the word call to set up that 15-minute strategy call with Reid himself, 951-596-5566. I told you I was going to ask you another question, but I'm not. I'm going to go to the questions about you.
Okay.
So I think these are kind of fun. This is us getting to know Reid Abedeen a little bit better. So, Reid, you've done a lot of things. What's on your bucket list?
When I retire, my wife and I, we have a dream of living in Florence, Italy for about 6 months to a year. And that is one of my favorite places because I love Tuscany. I love the Italian food. I love just being around that whole area. I actually got this idea from a client of mine. And I have this couple who are longtime clients of mine. They're still with me. When they retired, he was a realtor. They decided to move to Barcelona for 2 years, and they applied to the Spanish embassy. They showed that they can afford to live there. They won't be a burden on the system and everything else. And they loved it. And they walked, they didn't have a car. They traveled around Spain. They went to the farmer's market and everything else and met new friends and all that stuff. That's our vision for when we retire way down the road.
Florence, Italy.
Florence, Italy.
How come not Tuscany?
Well, it's right by there, actually.
Okay, there you go. All right, I like that. I like that. You and your wife have the same bucket list item for retirement. What about your biggest pet peeve?
It is disheveled or unorganized. My brain won't work if it's like a pile of laundry where, if there's papers everywhere or clothes or whatever it is, my brain can't work. So that's the unfortunate part about me. My team knows that a lot at the office. And so they make sure things are organized and structured. That's how my brain works more effectively, actually, than the other way. I got that from my mother, unfortunately.
Do you have a favorite athlete of all time?
I'm a big boxing fan. And so I loved the story of Muhammad Ali. He was more than an athlete. And he's probably one of the, if not the most well-known athlete in the world. Even after he retired, decades after he retired, he was the most recognized person, actually, that he could go anywhere in the world and they would know who he is.
I went to the San Diego Zoo one time and saw Muhammad Ali, and I'm like,
Oh my God.
holy cow, is he big?
Yeah.
I mean, he was 6'3", and boy, was he put together. I wouldn't have wanted to box him, that's for sure. All right, I like that. Here's one I really want to know. We've got about a minute left. Your earliest, because you're in the financial world, what's your earliest financial lesson?
Love the question. My first mutual fund I bought was in April of 2000. I had placed some money in a fund. I'd saved money. It was in the bank. So I thought, you know what, let me go put it in the markets. The markets have done really well during the dot-com era. Around 18 months later, that was cut in half. And I didn't even want to show my wife. I thought, boy, she'll leave me right after she sees this for sure. And so I asked myself this question: do I need this money? And the answer was no, I didn't need it. So I left it. I still own that fund. And it has not only recovered, it's way, 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 way ahead. But understanding that part of it was one of my best lessons. And I'll give you one more. My mother in 1999 loaned me $2,000. And she looked at me with her finger pointed at me. And she said, Reid, listen to me. If you don't pay me back this money, this bank is closed forever. Thank God she said that.
I like that. Those are both great. Hey, and if you'd like to have a conversation with Reid, try to figure out where you are on that road to retirement. Can I retire? If we already won the game, that would be great to know, wouldn't it? But maybe we need to make a tweak here or there. We don't really know that either. Give Reid a call. This 50-minute strategy call with Reid himself is your opportunity. No cost for this whatsoever. No obligation. No pressure. 951-596-5566. 951-596-5566. Again, you can text the word call to that number as well if you'd like to. Team will get back to you Monday. 951-596-5566. Reid, as always, a pleasure. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. We'll do it again next week.
I look forward to it, Mark.
Firm offers insurance services. Safeguard Investment Advisory Group, LLC is a registered investment advisory firm. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Any references to protection, safety, or lifetime income generally refer to fixed insurance products, never securities or investments. Insurance guarantees are backed by the financial strength and claims-paying abilities of the issuing carrier. This radio show is intended for informational purposes only. It is not intended to be used as the sole basis for financial decisions, nor should it be construed as advice designed to meet the particular needs of an individual's situation. Safeguard Investment Advisory Group, LLC is not permitted to offer, and no statement made during this show shall constitute tax or legal advice. Our firm is not affiliated with or endorsed by the U.S. government or any governmental agency. The information and opinions contained herein provided by third parties have been obtained from sources believed to be reliable, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed by Safeguard Investment Advisory Group, LLC.